Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dawn of Drones podcast. I'm Dawn Zoldi, your host and the CEO of P3 Tech Consulting. So great to have you all out there as we finish out an incredible month that we have dedicated to global industry leaders. This month was sponsored by Mission Go, so we thank them. And this episode, by the way, is one of a year-long series called Volatus Above and Beyond series. And today we have with us an incredible guest, Frank Segarra. He is the founder and CEO of ConnexiCore, which is actually a Volatus company. So welcome, Frank.
Thank you, Dawn. I must say it's pretty surreal from this side of the microphone, but I love talking about the drone business.
All right. Yeah. He says it's surreal, I think, because we were on opposite ends of the microphone, if you will. About a year ago, I was on your podcast.
Yeah, it was about 8 months ago. Yes.
Yeah, so everybody, you need to check out Frank's Drone Insights and Technology podcast. We'll drop the link here from my show, but we've got so much to talk about here today with Frank. Frank, before we get to the heart of ConnexiCore, why don't we talk a little bit about you? Can you give us like that kind of 30-second elevator speech bio?
Sure. Do you have 3 hours?
No, like I said, that's the full tilt, my friend. We'll get you on that next year.
No. Well, really, my career in aviation started in the military. I was in the Navy, and I was aboard the USS Kitty Hawk as an AQ-3. That's what I got into after boot camp. And I really learned the ropes in aviation, in the aviation world, in boot camp, and then on the ship. Moving out of the military, I got involved in a lot of technology sales because I have that gift to gab. I'm from North Jersey. I'm very aggressive. I don't take no for an answer. You're from Philly, so you.
I know. That's why I'm laughing, my friend.
So I got into technology sales, and I kind of bopped around, the typical, PC Richards, doing that type of thing as a young guy. And I finally got an opportunity to work in corporate sales, where the very first opportunity that I had to wear a suit and a tie, I was selling AV and communication systems to companies like Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse, a lot of the corporate companies in New York City.
Oh, wow.
So I did that for many years, and then I was offered a position with a company out of Boston who was a startup. They were called Synexus. And Synexus was a startup conferencing software and hardware company. I was with them for 18 years.
Wow.
I went from just account manager to senior VP of sales. I went through an acquisition, 3 CEOs, and I was pretty successful there. I really learned the ropes by being with that company and running the sales team. I was at a Christmas party, and I'm going to summarize right after that.
Yeah.
I was at a Christmas party, and I overheard some people saying, that Frank Segarra, he's making, more money than the CEO. Salespeople shouldn't be making that kind of money. And I said, wow, that was a wake-up call, and it was my time to exit. So I decided to start ConnexiCore. And ConnexiCore started as a consulting company, and drones were just a component of it because we consulted in unified communications, which involved other things like video conferencing, screen sharing technology, Cisco routers, things like that. But the drones really excited people. And I decided after about a year to just make it my mainstay because it really matched my background. And I really loved doing it, and it was the right time. If you think about 2015.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect time.
Right at the cusp, right? The FAA is like thinking about Part 107 right there. People are out there. It's the industry starting to crawl, as the FAA says. But Frank, this is great. I want to do a quick sizzle reel here to show a little bit about ConnexiCore, and then we're going to dig deeper. So let's roll that.
Okay.
All right, great. And I think it's a great intro to the company that you created. And you have this tagline, which is fly, upload, analyze, and present. So tell us just kind of again the overview of the company, and then we're going to break it down more specifically.
Sure, absolutely. So, fly, upload, analyze, and present, our tagline, really came from us wanting to portray the aura of being a turnkey drone services provider. There are a lot of drone services out there. Some of them specialize in just certain specific verticals, but then some of them just do everything. But all they do is they collect data. They don't do anything before or after they collect the data. So we take more of a consultative approach. Most of my team are seasoned salespeople from, I don't want to say the 1990s, but I have to. There a lot of us, did sales in the 90s, and we kind of grew up in this technology world, and learned the ropes. And doing that consultative selling up front, super important. So that's kind of the beginning. We find out what the pain points are for the client. Then we go out and we fly. When we're done flying, we upload all that data into either ConnexiCore Cloud or whatever platform we're using at the time for the analysis. Then we basically, after analyzing it, we present it to the client, and we make sure that the client has the data that they can use for real actionable tasks. I know that term gets used a lot.
Yeah.
Actionable tasks. What does that mean? Well, we look at it like, actionable data. It's not about the drone, it's about the data.
It always is
Okay?
about the data. Absolutely. And
Exactly.
actionable is like, as a company, as a leader, as a decision maker, you need relevant information to base your decisions upon, right? That's what actionable data is all about. And so that's a great segue. Like, tell us a little bit about, some of these key stakeholders that you do work with, and then we're going to get into your services specifically.
Sure. So I'd say that right now in 2022, a good majority of the stakeholders that we work with really don't know what they want. They,
Mm,
they have an idea of what they want. They did a search on Google. People have said, well, you can use a drone to get the XYZ aerial intelligence, but they really don't know how to present it to someone like us, as far as, hiring us.
right.
And they may have read or researched that drone technology will get them the deliverables that they're looking for, but many of them have a hard time articulating. So that's why working with a company like ConnexiCore, Turnkey, we provide our clients with the turnkey benefit of experienced consultative sales,
Yep.
deep-rooted software integration knowledge. How do we take that information, integrate it with your business software, and finally delivering an end product that we can stand behind with any audience. And we often get asked, what drones are you using? And as I said earlier, it's really not about the drone, it's about the data. Don't worry about what drones we're using, please.
Yeah, well, because I'm sure you've got a whole fleet of different ones for different tasks. That's what that's all about, right? And so let's talk about the services and products. I think these are some of your pilots that are on site, maybe in Texas, as we talked about before. Tell us a little bit about those services and products.
Sure. Um, so to date, so we started the company with 4 pilots back in late 2015. We're now approaching 1,300 pilots across North
Wow.
America. And to be honest with you, when you look at other aggregators, they have 5,000, 10,000 pilots. So it's obvious what's going on with those pilots. They're doing, a lot of work really fast, and it really doesn't matter the consultative selling part. We take our pilots, we go through a vetting process, and fortunately for us, a lot of our pilots are in industries where they have a background and experience, and we position them that way in architectural engineering and construction, one of the largest, energy and utilities, critical infrastructure, transportation, precision agriculture, and even production film and cinematography.
Oh, cool.
We've done documentaries on HBO and oh gosh, Oxygen TV about serial killers, and we have our drones flying in cities and
Wow, that's so.
It's
I have to say, Frank, I'm such a nerd now. It's almost ruined movies for me because every time, or even TV now, I'm watching something like, oh, that was clearly shot by a drone. Like that was shot with a drone. So,
oh,
no, I
absolutely.
mean, people don't even realize it unless you're in this industry. All how pervasive drone cinematography is right now in Hollywood and elsewhere. Just so huge. But you also do so many other things, in these industries like inspections, right? Mapping, and of course that analytics that we talked about. I know we won't have time to like dig into every single one of those because it's just we only have like 45 minutes here, but I want to really focus on your inspections and LiDAR specifically because when we're in Clubhouse and on this show, we get so many questions about LiDAR and what are the benefits of it? Why LiDAR? How's it different than, photogrammetry or other things? So can you walk us a little bit about your inspections and LiDAR specifically?
Sure, sure. So in a lot of the industries that I just mentioned, excuse me, they mature and they start to embrace drone technology. So you get this paradigm of the spin-off or the macro industries, such as building envelope, infrared analysis, confined space, solar farm, bathymetric, and that list pretty much goes on. And embedded in all of these main and macro industries, the value in inspections, mapping, video, analytics, consulting, and training come natural. We integrate this latest technology in aerial, terrestrial, and subsurface data collection. Sounds like a mouthful there. With state-of-the-art GIS, 3D AutoCAD, LiDAR software, allowing us to provide intuitive and cost-effective deliverables. So that's kind of like the elevator pitch on the macro industries. With regards to LiDAR, so let's tee up a little context around that.
Yeah, I think
So a
this
lot,
is like a transmission. I mean, you tell me what it is. I'm not going to say what it is.
yes. A lot of people really don't understand LiDAR, although it's been around for, I believe, 30 years now. LiDAR has been used, but since drones have kind of taken it to another level where sensors have been made small enough, LiDAR, by the way, stands for light detection and ranging. What does that mean? It's basically a remote sensing technology that uses laser light to densely sample the Earth's surface. So when we say densely sample the Earth's surface, we're capturing points. That's where we get the term point cloud. And each one of
Right,
these points produces a highly accurate XYZ measurement.
right.
And X meaning your width, Y meaning your length, Z meaning your height. Okay.
Okay.
And the LiDAR processes information similar to how sonar, everyone knows sonar, especially being a service member,
Well, yeah, you
or
being in the Navy, yes.
or radar to detect objects rather than hitting objects with a sound or radio wave. LiDAR hits it with light or a laser.
Yeah.
So that's basically the basics on LiDAR, and LiDAR ultimately provides a highly accurate measurement of an object's distance
Now,
from a
how is
set
that,
point.
Frank, for this transmission picture here, this transmission distribution or power lines, I know is another related, let's just say, area or market that you provide these LiDAR services for. How does the LiDAR work specifically with something like we see pictured right here?
Okay, so what we're looking at here is actually not a LiDAR image. It's a regular image used in a series of photogrammetry images from an
Gotcha.
inspection. But if we were to shoot that with LiDAR versus photogrammetry, you get a much more densely populated point cloud that can be cleaned up, and now you can calculate the distances. So like from those O-rings down to your clamp connector, your cable, you can get very, very, millimeter accuracy versus when you're looking at photogrammetry, to get millimeter accuracy is nearly impossible. So LiDAR is just a higher quality way to capture that type of data if you're looking for very good 3D data, if that
That's
makes any sense.
no, it totally makes sense. Now, you talked about analysis, and in the context of that, you mentioned this ConnexiCore cloud. So what is this?
ConnexiCore Cloud. So ConnexiCore Cloud is ultimately a self-serve or outsourced cloud-based image management platform. So it's a platform that we co-designed with a partner out of England, or excuse me, out of Europe. And it's designed primarily to just simply analyze georeferenced JPEG and infrared image data, which basically streamlines the drone data workflow. And the images now are brought into ConnexiCore Cloud. They can be sorted and put into specific inspections, and certain customers can have access through class of service to be able to analyze their own inspection. Now, if they want to get into analyzing their own inspection, all the power to them. I think where we show the value is we have such an expert team of analysts, as well as we utilize some AI to actually tag anomalies that are visually obvious. And we take those anomalies and we create through automation a report. It's a ConnexiCore Cloud report. And ultimately, it's a document that shows the stakeholder where we found visual anomalies, mostly in vertical inspections. We do a lot of infrastructure work on towers around the country where we're inspecting facades that are 100 years old.
Oh, wow.
And these facades are aging, and in some cases, they're falling from 20, 30 floors above and hitting people. And in New York,
Yikes.
an architect got killed a few years ago,
Oh my
which
gosh.
it kind of created this nationwide ordinance refresh on what building owners and contractors and facilities managers should be doing with their facades to maintain them. And
Wow.
ConnexiCore Cloud is really an easy way for them to analyze and also review changes.
Yeah,
In 2022, this is what the facade looked like here in the middle of Manhattan at 50 stories.
right.
Mr. Contractor, go out and fix it. We come back 18 months later, we do the same analysis on the same tower, and we can actually see if things were done and keep the contractor honest. It's not our job to keep the contractor honest, but we're
Right.
providing that value to our client so the client can go back to the contractor and say, listen, this wasn't done, this needs to be done, and oh, by the way, we see some other things. So those are kind of things ConnexiCore Cloud really is important for.
So as a practical matter, and we're going to talk about your pilot network here in a second, a little bit more. Uh, do you have to be either a direct ConnexiCore client, in other words, I hired you to inspect my building facade, or a ConnexiCore pilot to tap into that cloud, or can just say standalone pilots, people with their own companies, can they use the ConnexiCore cloud just like software as a service?
That is a great question, and yes to all of the above.
Okay.
So
Okay.
if the client is sophisticated, obviously uploading, it's no different than uploading to Dropbox, to Google Drive, all of these cloud-based storage platforms.
Right.
But this will actually allow you to sort. So I'll use an example. A building, a 50-story building has, let's call it 4 sides, 4 elevations,
Okay.
elevation north, south, east, and west. Okay.
Yep.
If you are flying those elevations and you're sorting them into folders that say south, first floor, second floor, third floor, when they're uploaded into ConnexiCore Cloud, you actually can break out and inspect just the south side. You don't have to look through all the images. So they're chronologically set up and sorted by destination of where they were located.
Okay, very cool, very cool. And is that a subscription that people would then just, through your website subscribe to?
Yes, we haven't been super proactive in promoting the subscription feature, software as a service.
Yeah.
But in 2023, we have some big announcements, and that's going to be a big part of our business is actually selling that software as a service, because we have a lot of pilots and a lot of clients now that are embracing drone technology, and they want to be able to do their own inspections, or maybe there's a historical restoration that we have no idea what the historical restoration details are. So they may have an architect that may just want to get into the inspection and just do it themselves. especially the
Ah,
infrared stuff. The infrared requires a lot of analysis.
all right. Well, you guys heard it here first. We have a 2023 preview already, so that's pretty cool. I love having first on the show. So let's revert to your pilot network because you mentioned, I think you said 1,500. Was that the right number?
1,300, approaching 13.
Okay, 13. So you created this network. So how does that work? Because there's so many other models out there, right? Where maybe someone just kind of signs up, like puts their name in, files a profile, a job gets posted. They're like, oh, yes, I want that job. There's a marriage for that. And then boom, off they go with their own equipment. Like, how does your network actually operate?
Sure. Another good question and very relevant to us succeeding and moving forward and generating revenue. Our pilot network's a little bit different in the sense that there are other pilot networks or aggregators that they just hire drone pilots. They fill out an application. It goes through. As long as they can prove they have a Part 107 here in the U.S., they're approved. And they're just assigned jobs, and there's really no communication, no formal process in place. We do a vetting process, which we vet the pilots, and the vetting is not only background checks, but we take a look at their work. We require their work. We ask them what industries they're proficient in. We have kind of an interview, and then they have to watch a video, a 26-minute video, and acknowledge that they watched the video. And the video kind of peels the onion back a little bit further about who we are and why you can be a pilot on our network. One thing we hate, and I say this because it's been years, we have some pilots that meet the profile perfectly. They sound great on paper. They sound great in an interview. But then a month after they come on the network, they're sending us harassing emails. Oh, I've been on your network for a month and I haven't seen a single job. And I kind of look at it like, you know what? If you're in the drone industry and you're a legitimate business and you're at the point where you could be on our network, then you need to be able to sustain your business and have the business acumen to not rely on us to just feed you work. We're not about feeding work. We're about finding the right pilots with the right dedication, the right ethics, equipment, knowledge, experience for our clients. Because at the end of the day, it's all about the client.
Yeah.
And if the client's getting a good deliverable, it means that we did a real good job vetting the pilot and getting the pilot on the network. And then the pilot has their own portal so they can update their profile. We offer a lot of things to our pilots that a lot of other networks do not.
And when you think about kind of the workforce you're looking for, I love the fact that you give preference, if you will, to U.S. military veterans. So thank you for your support of veterans because like you and me, I think there's so many veterans out there that learn such valuable skills, even if it has nothing to do with drones, just valuable leadership skills that translate well to any business. And certainly to being a drone pilot and certainly to the drone industry. So thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you. And I really appreciate and thank our service members, both active and inactive. And believe it or not, I think that's the very first question on our application is, are you a veteran? Because if you're a veteran, you check it off, it goes into a different pile because I actually want to take a look at this person. Because we see veterans, most people in the military. Now, don't get me wrong, there are bad people in every industry, in every armed forces,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
even the police departments. But we look at most veterans, 99% of them, as being, listen, if you make it through Marine boot camp, or any boot camp for that matter,
Yeah.
if you were a SEAL, then you're really at the top of the list. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, we see you as an individual that pays attention to detail. And in the drone business, one mistake, if you don't get the detail right, especially when you're live with that aircraft in the air and you have all sorts of liability in 360 degrees, you could get yourself in a lot of trouble, hurt somebody, create damage. So that attention to detail, really understanding, reading over the work order, and being truthful. And when you're on site, practicing good safety and regulatory compliance is key. And military people are, the UCMJ, Uniform
Yeah.
Code of Military Justice. There's no constitution, but
Yep.
you're part of the UCMJ and you have to follow it as a military active member.
Well, I have to correct you there, Frank. Being a former Air Force JAG, the Constitution still applies, but you do give up some of your personal liberties when you enter the military. So, and absolutely U.S. UCMJ is a statute. But I want to talk a little bit about not only how you kind of curate your workforce, but also like how you develop them because, after they come on board, and even for your clients out there, you've created some pretty robust training programs, which I think is also unique. So can you walk us through those a little bit?
Absolutely. So our training programs are designed more specifically for we'll say the junior or mid-level pilot that is just very much used to, logging into, let's say, drone deploy, flying a mapping mission, automated, and they feel really excited about that. They see the drone flying, it's automated, it didn't hit anything. What we teach them is how to make those adjustments in real time. How do you operate your drone in non-GPS or GPS denial mode, which happens quite often in vertical inspections where you physically lose GPS. So the training to do these special operations projects, confined space, we've really started to pick up a lot of confined space business, and it takes a different kind of pilot and different type of training to be able to do that. So our training programs are kind of a moving target, starting with basic operations in mapping and taking control manually to doing these special operations on facade inspections, confined space. We just did a project in Atlanta in a 10 million gallon potable water tank, and they were looking for a leak. And we discovered some things with the drone that we were using, which was another drone that we sell. And we found the leak, and we also found anomalies of working underwater, especially clear water, potable water. We found anomalies in how we would approach it. So we always, we do a post-mortem check after every mission.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we said, lessons learned. What are the lessons we learned on this mission? We review that with the operations team, with the pilot, and on the next mission, we have a little bit of a leg up in that scenario. So it's constant training, and sometimes we'll come out with a training series, and we'll train individual pilots in dedicated webinars, because we see that they have what it takes,
Yes.
but they just might need a little bit of hand holding, and we try to provide a lot of mentoring.
Well, your hand-holding training, mentoring really goes beyond this kind of formal program. You just mentioned webinars. Like everybody out there, if you haven't checked out ConnexiCore's website, I know we're going to drop that link here. Great webinars available for free. You guys also, we mentioned earlier, but I'll just kind of reinforce this. Your podcast with all kinds of folks in the industry talking from their perspective, which I think is really key to education if you're in this industry, to hear those different perspectives. And you have a blog. I mean, you've got a whole section for documentation and how people should be documenting things. So good on you, Frank, because
Thank you.
I've looked at a lot of websites. I work with a lot of different companies, and yours is really unique in the way that you really try to educate beyond just about your company, about the industry. And, I think it makes sense to me that Volatus found you because they do the same thing. And, so that just makes an abundant amount of sense to me. But I want to talk a little bit about some of your, oh, and by the way, you mentioned this in passing, and I do want to highlight it. You have a drone store. So
Yep.
it's not just like the consulting, the actual pilot network, all of this training and resources you have out there. You're actually selling drones as well on your website, through your website.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, our UAS product sales business is a huge revenue generator for our business and now our clients. And now that ConnexiCore is a Volatus Aerospace company, we offer a very expansive selection of the top commercial drone hardware and software technology. And if you think about it, um, we provide good projects for our pilots. We provide training. We provide consultative selling to our clients. And what helps the pilots more and helps the industry more than to have the right equipment to do the right application for our clients that are expecting a specific deliverable. So if you think about selling product, it really makes sense that if you can be that turnkey partner where you're providing jobs, you're providing training, direction, mentoring, and now products at a competitive price, really depends on the application. We also offer financing. That's something brand new with Mitsubishi to make it easier for our pilots to take it from a CapEx expense to an OpEx expense, which is much easier to justify and has a lot of tax benefit.
Oh, excellent. That's great. So let's talk about some of your success stories. I know you've got a lot of them, but I know there's two that you wanted to mention, and one was involving the Bank of Italy. Tell me about that one.
Yes. Believe it or not, the Bank of Italy, the building was it's in San Jose, California. It was or is 27 stories and was built in 1985. Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry, not 1985, 1895.
Oh, okay. That's significantly different. We're talking like Dickens time.
Oh, yes.
We're almost
yes.
at Christmas here. So okay, wow. Okay.
One of the oldest buildings in California.
And this is a picture of it, right? This is the picture. Is it from a drone, this picture?
Yes, that's from the drone. That's the spire. And we'll talk a little bit about that picture because it was a component in that picture that actually brought us really full circle into the facade inspection business. And I'll tell you how real quickly. So we were hired by the engineers to just do an inspection on this building because they wanted to scaffold the entire 26 stories.
Oh my gosh.
And they wanted to lag into the mortar and or some of the brick to be able to support the scaffold as they were building it up.
And so I know, number one, how expensive that is. Number two, how time consuming it is. And number three, how dangerous it is for the workers, especially when you're talking up on a 27th story, right, building, for sure.
Right. Very. I mean, that's a 6-month project. The liability is huge. And
because there's buildings all around that. I mean, you can see the buildings. Yeah,
exactly. So they hired us to inspect it for those purposes so they can scaffold. So not only do they have to scaffold once to do the inspection, but they had to scaffold a second time, break down the scaffold to put up more secure scaffolding to actually do the work, to hold the heavy load on the scaffolds of masonry and tools and things like that. So we came back with the survey and they said, oh my God, we're seeing the grain in the mortar. We're seeing the cracks. We're seeing everything. And we showed them what we found at the top of the spire. And when you look at that image, there's a copper post that was 30 pounds heavy at the top of that was completely dislodged and just laying kind of diagonally against the spire, just hanging out there waiting to fall.
Oh my gosh.
So they said, wow. So long story short, they got a helicopter with a magnet and we actually hung out the drone and we observed the magnet actually making an attachment to the to that copper plinth block, and they took it away. But they said, you know what? We're going to see if we can get approval to have you guys do the whole inspection, and we're going to nix doing the scaffold work. So I said, well, we're in town for one more day. If you can get the approval, I'll do a change order. We did the change order, we got the approval, and we saved the contractor and the engineering firm over $160,000.
I don't doubt that.
Scaffolding and labor and
just the fact also they had to it's so interesting that they used a helicopter, which by the way we know is very expensive, but I guess they had no choice because I don't think we're there yet with like the big heavy drones that could have picked up that copper thing, but to have that kind of networked operation where your drone was like giving that imagery to show like, yes, the connection is made, helicopter pilot or engineer mechanic, you can lift that now. That, I mean, so cool. That's such a great story. And you have another one about the Desmond Bridge. Tell us about that. I think we have a picture.
Yeah, so that's the Desmond Bridge, and that's a very cool picture because, well, it's a cool picture because it shows the silhouette shadow of one of our matrices,
I see
which,
that.
and this was probably our most difficult project to date. And the reason for it was those cables that you see that are going into the tower.
Right.
They're cable shrouds. So the shroud is covering the cable, and then the shroud is going into the tower and attaching to an O-ring. Okay.
Okay.
These
Is the shroud like
O-rings,
metal?
yeah, it's like a
Okay. Okay.
steel composite
Steel.
material.
And where is this bridge? I should know. I'm sorry, I don't.
This is in Long Beach Harbor,
Oh, okay. Okay.
California.
All
Yes,
right.
California. So we were hired by the structural engineers to help them find, because the shrouds were going into the hole and some of the O-rings were failing and the shrouds were sliding down and exposing all the cable.
Okay, that
So
sounds bad.
they hired us and we thought, you know what, we'll go up there with a matrice. We'll have one matrice as a chaser with the spotlight and one matrice to come in with the zoom, and we'll be able to see the O-ring. But if you look at those cables, they're at these very unusual angles that
They are.
it made it impossible to see the O-ring at least 270 degrees of the O-ring. So we tried a bunch of different methods. We tried the traditional method. We tried a cable cam from the tower above, bringing it down on a cable, but it was so windy, it was swinging. At the
Yikes.
very last day, when we were ready to give up, we said, well, you know what? Let's pull out this FPV drone and let's just, I don't know, fly it up and see what happens.
Yeah.
So we brought the FPV, which, on the gimbal, you're able to tilt the camera upwards, which gave it a little advantage. We got so close, and I can see the two nuts, the key nuts that we were looking for on the
Yeah.
O-ring. And I said, wait a second. And I asked the client, I said, would this be acceptable if we were to provide video of this? And he said, hell yeah.
Yeah.
This is a great video. So we fabricated a cage for two FPVs, customized it,
Wow.
and we look at ourselves like the MacGyvers of the drone business. We'll figure
Yeah.
out a way.
Okay. First of
And
all, you and I, like, we're old enough to know that reference. For those that don't, what was that? Jan Michael Vincent. He was like he was MacGyver, and he would like use duct tape to like, I don't know, create everything. Get out of
yeah,
these jams and like create these like contraptions. Like, yeah.
yeah.
So that's hilarious. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, MacGyver was a great series. In fact, Saturday Night Live had a real funny parody about MacGyver
Oh,
because
God.
everything he did, there was an explosion right after it, and he was
Okay.
rescued.
Well, let's hope yours did not explode. So you create these customized cages for FPV drones for this Desmond Bridge to find any chinks in the armor, so to speak, for the O-rings and the lug nuts or the nuts that were
Yes,
failing. Okay. How did that
yes,
work out?
and it worked out perfectly. It was,
Wow.
well, we knew that we can make contact with the cable. The FPV drone was small enough, and because of the tilt on the camera, we were able to get close enough, and we were able to basically work ourselves around each cable, which the entrance of each cable actually had a different angle of attack.
Yep.
So
Yep.
each one was a different approach. But we
Yes.
got every single one. There was 182 cable entries,
But
and
who's
we got it.
counting?
We looked at the schematic a zillion
Oh yeah,
times, like, how do we do
I'm
this?
sure.
So we did it, and it was a success. And from that, we probably picked up a dozen, not even bridge projects. Now we're inspecting silos in nuclear plants. We're doing chimney flare inspections in the South for power companies through the same company that hired us for the bridge.
So, Frank, are you using this, lack of a better term, this contraption you made for the FPV drones for some of these things you're mentioning?
Um, if necessary, we'll use them, but we haven't really found an application that would require this FPV with the cage. Like, we'll do confined space using Elios drones, which are much smaller cage drones. This
Yes.
drone was an FPV drone that had about, I don't know, maybe a 16-inch width,
Yep.
10-inch height. But we now know that we have a solution, and if it comes up and we need to inspect something similar, we've already we did all the legwork. So
I love it. And by the way, I was laughing, Frank, not at you, like at Carolina Airshots out there. So first of all, Carolina Airshots, thanks for your comment. Carolina Airshot says, with chewing gum and baking soda, MacGyver could blow up the whole bridge. And I would agree with that. So we've got another MacGyver fan out there. I love it.
all right.
So we are getting so close to our time, which doesn't shock me because I know this conversation, our time would pass swiftly talking to you, Frank. So a lot of things going on. You alluded to maybe software as a service with your ConnexiCore cloud next year. What else can we expect from you over the next year in 2023?
Well, 2023 is going to be a fast growth period for us, we see, in a variety of ways. And like any other technology company that wants to survive and be relevant, our number one priority is to continue growing our revenue. And organizationally, we had a record third quarter 2022. I think our revenue was a little over 11 million, which
Wow.
blows my mind because it was an increase of 68% over the previous quarter and 238% increase over the same quarter in the prior year.
So I'm gonna just cut you off there and ask you real quick. So what do you think? Why do you think that is? You know, you're the analysis guy, right? You're always analyzing things, drone imagery for people. But when you see this kind of explosive growth in quarter three for your company, what do you attribute that to?
Well, I attribute it probably to two big areas. We're innovators, visionaries. We're very forward-looking. So new innovation, integrations that provide our clients with solutions, such as like, if you go to Volatus website, we have a product called Aeroport. It's a drone nesting technology. So the drone actually
Yes.
gets tucked away in a nest, and you can do quite a few things with it. We have an all-terrain robotic crawler. It's named Hydra. These are innovations that are helping us, but really at the end of the day, and this is a non-brown nose statement, this is a fact,
Yeah.
but we really owe our overall Volatus organizational growth to our CEO of Volatus, is Glenn Lynch. Glenn's the architect of the global acquisition strategy. I mean,
Oh
this
my
guy is
gosh, Frank, I've been watching Volatus. I just saw the announcement in DroneLife, who of course anchors this program this year, about deeper North American presence. I saw, I was at Commercial UAV, right? I think we were both there. The giant Draxon van, right? The command vehicle, like you said, the Hydra, is that what it's called? The
yeah, the Hydra.
crawling. Okay,
Yep,
like,
robotic. Yeah.
yeah, like the drone, the dog, right? Like the robotic dog, like all of these things, and I'm like, holy schnikes! Every time I turn around, there's just another announcement. So that's really cool to see that. And yes, Glenn is. I met Glenn a couple years ago, and just been kind of following him. We've stayed connected through the years. Just amazing to watch, like the explosive growth, not just in quarter three, but really over this past year. So we were talking about 2023. We got about a minute left. So any big announcements coming up, Frank, that people should know about? Because I love to have announcements on the show.
Sure. We have some big announcements coming up, but I don't have the liberty right now to say. But I will say this, and I have to plug something, is
Sure.
we are actively hunting nationwide for senior level salespeople. We need more salespeople. The leads are flowing in, and we need good quality people to manage this. So feel free to visit our website and apply, because that's really important for us. And I like to say, very much like I do on my own podcast, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. And that's a Winston Churchill quote that I use on every single podcast. So
Awesome.
if I stick to that, we will succeed, because I'm very type A. And well, Glenn's even type A on steroids. This guy wakes up in the morning and I don't know where he gets his energy from because I'm tired. I'm 59. We're both the same age. And I'm tired when I wake up. I need a little coffee in me and getting started. But
Right
yeah, I
here.
think we have a lot to go, and we have a lot of things happening and big announcements coming up next quarter. And
All
you'll
right.
be
Well,
hearing more about
we will keep an eye out to be sure, Frank. So how can people plug into your efforts? You mentioned your website. Is that the best way?
Certainly visit our website, ConnexiCore.com, or visit our LinkedIn page and feel free to like it because it's not a static page. It's a very active page. We put a lot of educational material on there. We put a lot of case study. So go to ConnexiCore, Volatus company LinkedIn page, and feel free to like it, and you'll be plugged into that feed. That's probably the best two ways. And feel free to reach out because we have a 2-hour guarantee on getting a human back to call you. You know,
Awesome.
we're not going to wait 2 days. We're not going to botch you on the website. Someone will return your phone call regardless of how, small your inquiry might be.
Well, awesome, Frank. Thank you so much for taking this time with us today. It was really enlightening to learn a lot more about your business, what you've been doing, how you guys have become global leaders for the industry. So really appreciate you. And everybody out there, that's all she wrote. We're out here.